Hi, this is Dan Stephen Erickson, songwriter, and today I wanted to show you a little bit about my process of songwriting, at least how I store the songs on paper, and it's changed over the years. So we're gonna go clear back to what I did in my early songwriting days. And in my early songwriting days, I wrote on spiral-bound notebooks like this. So I'd write the lyrics, sometimes the chords in the side by the spirals, and that's what I did. And then I started putting all my songs into these big notebooks, so 3-ring binders. I've got 2 of these. I've got one for 1985 to 1998, and so there's probably about 300 songs in here, something like that, 200, 300 songs. I'd type them out. I didn't, back then I didn't add any chord progressions, so this is why I lost some of my chord progressions. I'd just type them out and I wouldn't put the chord progressions in there. Now I do have recordings of most of these too. Some of those got sent off to the Library of Congress, so sometimes I have to kind of rewrite some chord progressions on some of these. And then here's, this one's 2000 to 2009, so probably another few hundred songs in this 3-ring binder. And then after 2009, I kind of quit typing. So there's a section in there where I wasn't typing them. I was only doing them on legal pads. So after somewhere around 1993 or 94, I switched from these 3-ring binders. I got a few 3-ring binders. I'm going to show you something in a little bit that's pretty cool. So, and I switched to legal pads. So from about 1994 until about 2020, I predominantly used legal pads. So I've literally got, probably 10 to 15 legal pads full of songs with, as you can see, the chord progressions are in the column there on the edge. There's a whole bunch of these. And then there was a period of time, for some reason, the legal pads started falling apart, or I was doing some recording projects where we just needed separate pages. So we've got all my songs from 2000 to 2002 are in here in a folder. I've got a folder of mandolin. These are all mandolin songs from 01 and 02. And then I've got a folder here of starts and unfinished stuff, or songs I wrote and then decided I wasn't gonna do. I could go back to later. And sometime in the late 80s, early 90s, I threw out a box of stuff, right? A box of old spiral bounds with half-written songs. Early on in my career, 2/3 of my songs were half-written and I couldn't get through them, and so I threw out a bunch of stuff too. That was done back in the 80s and into the early 90s. So what I was going to show you is, coming up next, I'm going to start doing songs from 1992. It probably won't be till sometime in September before they start getting into the recordings and on the channel. But I'm going to start doing songs from 1992. And I actually have spiral bounds that go clear back to 1992. So here's one called Chances Are, which chances are good that you're going to hear that song in the future. What else is in here? There's one I'm going to do that's called A Hard Way to Go that's in here. There's some in this book too from 1992 that I'm gonna do. So yeah, here's a stack from 1992. I got about 12 of them there, out of about 50 or 60. I can't record all of these. It's just too many. So I got my iPad Pro here, and so I wanted to show you how I write and store my songs now. I switched to, sometime in around 2020, I started typing my lyrics into notes on Apple. So I use Apple Notes, and so you'll see here I've got there's 2025 lyrics. Those don't have, there's no words or no music to those on 2025 lyrics. We've got uke recorded and uke not recorded. I've got this master folder, which has stuff going back to 22. So I guess it was closer to 22 when I started using notes rather than 20. For a couple years there, I didn't write a whole lot of songs. I was working on ambient music. So this is what I do now. And on these, if you see this one, Love is a Train, which is going to be coming up soon on the channel. It's one of the ukulele songs from the second batch. You see that I put the chord progressions right there after the line, right? And that's enough to remind me of what to do. So this is my process today, is using the iPad Pro. I can write songs anywhere, right? If I'm in my car and I gotta wait 10 minutes for somebody, I can get on my Apple Notes app on my phone and I can write a song, a lyric right there. And I've done it many times. I used to drive my daughter around to work and I'd have to wait for her to get off because she's a server. And, well, I'm gonna get off at 8 o'clock, Dad. Yeah, I got closing duties, Dad. It's gonna be 8:30, right? So I'd sit there and I'd write lyrics in the parking lot or poetry. So that is kind of the way it's changed over the years. It's gone from spiral bound notebooks to legal pads to notes on Apple products. I mean, some people still like to write by hand, and yeah, you know, some people claim, there's something special about it, and I do better work when I write by hand. I'm not sure I agree with that. There's something magic in typing too, for me. It works. And so I most often either type on my computer or thumb it on my phone if I'm in my car, and it doesn't bother me that I write that way. I find it to be very efficient and effective. I can write a lot of songs, I can store them, I can categorize them, instead of using these, right, that I showed you early on. I don't have to use these anymore, right? These big old notebooks. So I wasn't kidding when I've told you a few times that I've written probably over 1,500 songs now. I stopped counting somewhere in around 1,000. I just said, I'm done counting. So I stopped counting, but I know since the 1,000, it's been several years, many years, and I've probably written 500 more. So that's just a little insight on how I write, how I store in writing the stuff I've been working on. So I hope maybe that was informative, and pretty soon you'll be seeing some songs from 1992 start popping up on the channel. I'm Dan Steven Erickson, songwriter. This is my channel. You can hit subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and I also have a website at danstevenerickson.com, so feel free to go there and check that out, and we'll see you next time with another song.